Hello YouTube, Sketchy Reporter here. Yesterday, I'm making this video a day late because I got home yesterday from the movies and I was just beat. But I went to the movies yesterday, opening day, to go see The Cabin in the Woods. And the other reason why I didn't make a video yesterday because I almost didn't want to. And I'll get into why in a second. But The Cabin in the Woods, if you have seen the trailer for this movie, you are already in Joss Whedon's trap. Joss Whedon, in my book, can do no wrong. He did Firefly, he did Dollhouse, he's doing upcoming Avengers, which I haven't obviously seen yet, but it looks amazing. And Joss Whedon's writing style is so different than other writers right now in Hollywood, for the sole purpose that it's believable. The characters say conversations that would actually exist in a real life scenario. And no other writers really do that. It feels scripted, and The Cabin in the Woods does not feel scripted at all. And one of the things about Cabin in the Woods is I already know it's gonna suffer in the box office because of the title alone. Because of the trailer alone. The trailer of this movie is, you got 5 teenagers who go to a cabin in the woods and are picked off one by some unknown force. Haven't seen that before. And The Cabin in the Woods is such a generic title. And part of the trap is, this movie is not at all what you think it's gonna be. People are gonna think horror slasher movie with Joss Whedon's name attached. That's their only clue that this is something more. And that's sadly unfortunate. But at the same time, it is a piece of brilliance. So I went to go see this movie and expecting to actually love it. Because Joss Whedon's name's attached to it. It's a horror film. I should absolutely love this. And I left loving it even more. For me, that's pretty unheard of. I'm usually going to go into a movie loving it and come out disappointed. But no, I went into this movie expecting to love it, and I loved it even more afterward. About this point, the video is going to stop for a certain amount of people. But just know that this is the best movie I have seen, literally, in a really long time. I absolutely adore this movie. It makes my top 3 movies of all time, easily. So just know where I'm coming from whenever I say this movie is brilliant. So the movie's gonna, this video is gonna stop for a lot of people because I'm getting ready to go into really heavy spoiler territory. And if you have any means to go see this movie, turn this off right now. Right now. Because there are so many things to spoil in this movie, and if you know any of it, the movie is pretty much ruined. Because it's all part of a trap, you see. Joss Whedon understands his audience, and he knows what he's getting into. And I admire this guy so much for it. So, if you don't want to know anything about The Cabin in the Woods before you go see it, if you don't want to know anything about Cabin in the Woods, just turn off this video right now. Okay? If you're still here, it's not my fault, it's your own. But Cabin in the Woods, it's not a horror film. It's not a slasher film. It is a movie that is satirizing the satire that horror has become. Let me explain. For the past decades, probably going back to one that really probably started it all, was Michael Myers. Which, the first Halloween is, again, a piece of cinematic brilliance. Nothing is more terrifying than babysitting a series of young children and just a maniac bursts in through your door and tries to kill them. Nothing is more terrifying to a babysitter than that. And it pulled it off so well, and when Halloween succeeded, everybody else thought they could succeed too, with more people and more killers. Halloween probably wasn't the start of it, but it was definitely the one that kind of cemented it into inventing the slasher genre for what we kind of know it as of today. Which, the slasher genre today, you got 5 stereotypes who are picked off one by one. That's basically thousands of movies. You got the whore, you got the jock, you got the geek, you got the druggie, and you got the virgin. Those 5 stereotypes are in this movie. And the thing about it is, it's important to the plot. Completely. Now, I really hate doing this, talking about this movie, because it really, I can't talk and give it justice. It is written so well. It's... Okay, I'm going to try and analyze this for you guys. This is a movie inside a movie. The villains in this movie are executive producers, directors, writers. They are the ones behind all of these crappy movies that have happened for the past decade. And what's one more? You see, they send out a phony letter to the jock and say, your cousin's giving you guys a cabin in the woods for a couple of weeks. Do you want to go down there? Of course they say yes. Hey, bring along some friends. There's our 5 contestants for the new game. Yes, a game is involved in this. Well, this is what you get when you cross the makers of Firefly and Saw. But yes, this movie is a game. And it's a movie inside a movie because everything that happens in this cabin is being done by the people back at the studio. And the studio is actually underneath the cabin. But they don't know that. And let the mayhem begin. Like, any kind of phobia you can think of, any kind of fear, is in this movie. All from the press of a button. You press a button, instantly monsters start spawning, trying to kill the 5 people who are in this cabin. And the whole plot of the movie is, when you start to find out that this lab is in control of it all, you gotta break the trend that horror has become. The horror always dies first, followed by the black guy, followed by the druggie, followed by the jock, followed by the virgin. When they start dying out of order, the game is over. So the studio starts getting really, really panicked, and they have to try and cause even more hell to fall upon these characters. One of the downsides is actually a plus. Like, Joss Whedon is writing these stereotype characters that we've seen thousands of times, but we actually like them. That's what happens whenever you see the characters from, like, Firefly. Not a single character in Firefly do you dislike. But all the stereotypes are actually really likable characters, especially the druggie. Every time Druggie is on camera, he is the funniest guy ever. Because he has a voice that sounds like this, and he talks really high, and I'm always trying to get into wherever I want to go. They're everywhere, man. They're everywhere. I'm gonna go read a book with pictures. The Druggie is so funny. But this movie actually sounds extremely stupid. And you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe this is the dumbest premise that ever happened. But when it is done so perfectly, you can't say it's not well done. This movie, if you've ever seen the movie Last Action Hero, it's like that if it was done in a horror setting. I can't really even explain how phenomenal this movie is. And it sounds so stupid, but it's so ingenious at the same time. If you're not really grasping what this movie is about, it's 5 teenagers who are trying to break the trend of what horror has become. This is Joss Whedon saying, basically directly, This is the kind of movie that you guys go to see all the time. These are the movies that you guys seem to enjoy. This is what horror has become. We need to stop it. We need to start something new. And this is a humongous risk from any directing standpoint. He didn't direct it, he was just the writer. But from any kind of perspective, this is a humongous risk. Because you are like, either angering or disappointing so many fans of horror that have become obsessed, and these slasher genres are the only horror that they know of. Horror has lost all atmosphere nowadays. Horror has, it's just nothing but teenagers lining up for the meat grinder. That is all horror has become, and it's really disappointing. This movie takes that scenario and completely revamps it into a new formula. This could very well be the start of a whole new branch of horror. And if you are a horror nut, if you are a complete fan of horror genres, not just slashers, but horror in general, run, don't walk to this movie. Because you will most definitely, I'm calling it, have a fantastic time. I really can't get over how well done this movie is done. It's so brilliantly told. It's so well made. The stereotypes are actually likable, and they are so significant to the plot. Like, the only complaints I really have about it is the science could probably be explained a little bit more of how it's done. But other than that, it's a studio. The people in the studio are writing the story. People who write these things don't think of the science, they just write it down and bam, there it is. That's how slashers are born. Well, until the remakes started happening, then they all start getting storylines, and we're supposed to feel bad for them. That didn't work. But that's a completely side note. This movie is just, I keep saying it's brilliant. It is. If you're a fan of horror, you're gonna enjoy this. I don't really know what else to say. I can't give this movie justice for what it is, but it's brilliant. And it has like a 7.9, I think, on IMDb. And honestly, I'm gonna sound like a complete elitist here for a second, but if you give this movie a bad score, it's because of two things. Either you don't like horror movies, or you just didn't get it. And I don't like saying that at all. I don't like saying I am superior to you because I got this movie and you didn't. But, yeah. You kind of actually have to be a fan of horror to understand this movie. And if you didn't get it, you're not a fan of horror. You see? It's like a cross-equal thing. I mean, if you're a fan of horror, you're gonna get it. If you're not a fan of horror, you're gonna be kind of confused. And I guess that's actually kind of a weak point in the movie. A movie should be for everybody, I guess you could argue, but no, not this time. This movie is an ode to the fans that have put up with all the crap over the past decades. This is a movie that says, this is what you guys like, this is what exists right now. I'm pulling the plug. We're changing this. We're throwing a whole new curveball at you. And you know what? Mission accomplished. It's true, Joss Whedon gets the genre, he breaks it down to a science, he analyzes every aspect of what horror has become, and says, it's over. This can't happen anymore. I am sick of the same movie being made again and again and again and again. You know what? I am too. So, seeing this movie was a complete breath of fresh air. And if you're gonna make the complaint that this movie is so stereotypical, I can't stand these characters, I've seen them 100 times, I can't stand some of the effects, I've seen these things 100 times, I can't stand the title, I've seen this kind of title 100 times, well, you know what? Joss Whedon did that on purpose. Any kind of fault with the movie, it's on purpose. Because that's what horror has become. These crappy characters, these crappy effects, these crappy scenarios. He's doing this on purpose. it's what we've grown to appreciate, it's what we've grown to like, because it's the only thing that exists anymore. Do you see? So, I salute Joss Whedon with all the respect in the world. Like, I hate this movie in a way, because I didn't think of this. Because this scenario is so... I told my friend that this is the most unoriginal script I've ever read. And I stand by that. This movie is... The scenario that this movie does is... I'm repeating myself a lot now. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up. But if you're a fan of horror at all, get off your butts right now and go see it. Because you won't be disappointed. So I'm going to go back to work on my next major review. It's a big one. It's one I've been working on for a couple of days now, and I think you're really going to like it. But, yeah, Cabin in the Woods, that is what you call a new genre of movie. So, Sketchy Reporter out.